The Corduroy Pants by Caldwell. 2 weeks after he had sold his farm on the back road for $1,200 and the Mitchells had moved in and taken possession, Bert Fellows discovered that he had left his other part of Corduroy Pants up attic. When he had finished hauling his furniture and clothes to his other place on the Skowhegan Road, he was sure he had left nothing behind. But the morning that he went to put on his best pairs of pants, he could not find them anywhere. Bert threw the matter over 2 or 3 years and decided to go around on the back road and ask A.B. Mitchell to let him go up attic and get the corduroys. He had known A.B. all his life, and he felt certain A.B. would let him go into the house and look around for them. A.B. was putting a new board on the doorstep when Bert came up the road and turned into the yard. A.B. glanced around but kept right on working. Bert waited until A.B. had finished planning the board before he said anything. "How be you, A.B.?" he inquired cautiously. "Hell, I'm always well," A.B. said, without looking up from the step. Bert was getting ready to ask permission to go into the house. He waited until A.B. hammered the 20 penny into the board. "I left a pair of corduroys in there, A.B.," he stated preliminarily. "You wouldn't mind if I went up attic and got 'em, would you?" A.B. let the hammer drop out of his hands and fall on the step. He wiped his mouth with his handkerchief and turned around facing Bert. "You go in my house and I'll have the law on you. I don't give a cuss if you've left 50 pair of corduroys up attic. I bought and paid for this place and the buildings on it, and I don't want nobody tracking around here. When I want you to come on my land, I will invite you." Bert scratched his head and looked up at the attic window. He began to wish he had not been so forgetful when he was moving his belongings down to his other house on the Skowhegan Road. "They won't do you no good, A.B.," he said. "They are about 10 sizes too big for you to wear, and they belong to me anyway. I've already told you what I'm going to do with them corduroys," A.B. replied, going back to work. "I've made my plans for my corduroys. I'm going to keep them. That's what I'm going to do." Bert turned around and walked towards the road, glancing over his shoulder at the attic window where his pants were hanging on a rafter. He stopped and looked at A.B. several minutes, but A.B. was busy hammering 20 penny nails into the new step he was making, and he paid no attention to Bert's sore looks. Bert went back down the road, wondering how he was going to get along without his other pair of pants. By the time Bert reached his house, he was good and mad. In the first place, he didn't like the way A.B. Mitchell had ordered him away from his old farm. But most of all, he missed his other pair of corduroys, and by bedtime he couldn't sit still. He walked around the kitchen, mumbling to himself and trying to think of some way by which he could get his trousers away from A.B. "Crusty-faced Democrats never were no good," he mumbled to himself. Half an hour later, he was walking up the back road towards his old farm. He had waited until they knew A.B. was asleep, and now he was going to get into the house and go up attic and bring out the corduroys. Bert felt in the dark for the loose window in the barn and discovered it could be opened just as he had expected. He had had good intentions of nailing it down, but the past 2 or 3 years, and now he was glad he had left it as it was. He went through the barn and the woodshed and into the house. A.B. had gone to bed about 9 o'clock, and he was asleep and snoring when Bert listened at the door. A.B.'s wife had been stone deaf for the past 20 years or more. Bert found the corduroy pants with no trouble at all. He struck only one match up attic, and the pants were hanging on the first nail he went to. He had taken off his shoes when he climbed through the barn window, and he knew his way through the house with the eyes shut. Getting into the house and out again was just as easy as he had through it would be. And as long as Abe snored, he was safe.
In another minute he was out in the barn again, putting on his shoes and holding his pants under his arm. He had put over a good joke on Abby Mitchell, all right. He went home and got into bed. The next morning, Abby Mitchell drove his car up to the front of Bert's house and got out. Bert saw him from his window and went to meet Abby at the door. He was wearing the other pair of corduroys, the pair that Abby had said he was going to keep for himself. "I'll have you arrested for stealing my pants," Abby announced as soon as Bert opened the door. "But if you want to give them back to me now, I might consider calling off the charges." "It's up to you what you want to do about it." "That's all right by me," Bert said. "When we get to court, I'll show you that I'm just as big a man as you think you are. I am not afraid of what you'll do. Go ahead and have me arrested, but if they lock you up in place of me, don't come begging me to go your bail for you." "Well, if that's the way you think about it," Abby said, getting red in the face, "I'll go ahead with the charges. I'll swear out a warrant right now, and they'll put you in county jail before bedtime tonight." "They'll know where to find me," Bert said, closing the door. "I generally stay pretty close to home." Abby went out to his automobile and got inside. He started the engine and promptly shut it off again. "Come out here a minute, Bert," he called. Bert studied him for several minutes through the crack in the door and then went out into the yard. "Why don't you go swear out the warrant? What you waiting for now?" "Well, I thought I'd tell you something, Bert. It will save you and me both a lot of time and money if you'd go to court right now and save the cost of having a man come out here to serve the warrant on you. If you'll go to court right now and let me have you arrested, the cost won't be as much." "You must take me for a cussful, Abby Mitchell," Bert said. "Do I look like a fool to pay $10 for hiring a car to take me to county jail?" Abby thought to himself several minutes, gazing sideways at Bert. "I'll tell you what I'll do, Bert," he proposed. "You get in my car and I'll take you there and you won't have to pay $10 for hiring a car." Bert took out his pipe and tobacco. Abby waited while they thought the proposition over thoroughly. Bert could not find a match, so Abby handed him one. "You'll do that, won't you, Bert?" he asked. "Don't hurry me. I need plenty of time to think it over in my mind." Abby waited, bending nervously toward Bert. The match head crumbled off, and Abby promptly gave Bert another one. "I guess I can accommodate you a little bit this time," he said at length. "Wait until I lock up my house." When Bert came back to the automobile, Abby started the engine and turned around the road toward Snowhaven. Bert sat beside him sucking his pipe. Neither of them had anything to say to each other all the time they were riding. Abby drove as fast as his old car would go, because he was in a hurry to get Bert arrested and the trial started. When they reached the courthouse, they went inside and Abby swore out the warrant and had it served on Bert. The sheriff took them into the courtroom and told Bert to wait and sit down the first row of benches. The sheriff said they could be pushed case ahead and get a hearing sometime that same afternoon. Abby said still waiting until he was called to give his testimony. Bert stood up while the charge was read to him. When it was over, the judge asked him if he wanted to plead guilty or not guilty. Not guilty, Bert said. Abby jumped off his seat and waved his arm. He's lying. He shouted at the top of his voice. He's lying. He did steal my pants. Who is that man? The judge asked somebody. That is the man who swore out the warrant, the clerk said. He's the one who claims the pants were stolen from him. Well, if he yells out like that again, the judge said, I swear out a warrant against him for giving me a headache, and I guess somebody had better tell him there is such a thing as contempt of court. He looked like he never heard of anything like that before. The judge rapped for another and went over towards Bert. Did you steal a pair of corduroy pants from this man? He asked. They were my pants, Bert explained. I left them in my house when I sold it to Abby Mitchell, and when I asked him for them, he wouldn't turn them over to me. I didn't steal them. They belonged to me all the time. He's lying. Abby shouted again, jumping up and down. He stole my pants. He's lying. $10 for contempt of court, wherever your name is, the judge said, aiming his weapon at Abby, and case dismissed for lack of evidence. Abby's face sunk into his head. He looked first at the judge and around the courtroom and the strange people. You're not going to make me pay $10, are you? He demanded angrily. No, the judge said, standing up again. I made a mistake. I forgot that you are a Democrat. I meant to say $25. Bert went outside and waited at the automobile until Abby paid his fine. In a quarter of an hour, Abby came out of the courtroom. Well, I guess I'll have to give you a ride back home, he said, getting under the steering wheel and steering the engine. But what I ought to do is leave you here and let you ride home in a hired car. Bert said nothing at all. He sat down beside Abby, and they drove out of town toward home. It was almost dark when Abby stopped the car in front of Bert's house. Bert got out and slammed shut the door. I'm mighty much obligated for the ride, he said. I've been waiting to take a trip over Skowhegan way for a year or more. I'm glad you asked me to go along with you. Abby, I don't see how the trip was worth $25 to you. Abe shoved his automobile into gear and jerked down the road toward his place. He left Bert standing beside the mailbox, rubbing his hands over the leg of his corduroy pants. Abby, Mitchell, a ghost, to have better sense than Abby Mitchell ought to have better sense than to be a Democrat. Bert said, I got into his house.